Hi, and welcome back to this surprise special on other Cold War happenings between 1975 and 1985.
I love surprises.
Well, Dan, this one was kind of your fault. Ted Koppel and George Stephanopoulos are in the newsroom right now trying to piece together some of the things you left out in these specials. And since we won the fight in the backyard, we get to do the newscast while they get us coffee, Mountain Dew, and shuffle through papers and other boring and mundane things.
Alright.
Anyway, we begin with some basic terms for the audience to learn.
First, arc of crisis.
The arc of crisis is defined as an area stretching from the Indian subcontinent in India in the east to the Horn of Africa in Africa in the west, with the Middle East in the Middle East in the center.
Alrighty. Sorry for redundancy. It is called the arc of crisis because it is the location of countless conflicts throughout most of Earth's history.
Next, we have the China card.
The China card was a special ID card issued to all Chinese in Taiwan who had a household registration.
This one. Exactly. Next, Evil Empire.
Evil Empire was a term coined by Ronald Reagan used to describe the Soviet Union.
Evil Empire could also refer to the Galactic Empire in the Star Wars trilogy, which was reasonably popular at the time.
Gorbachev is quoted to have called Reagan a meanie after calling the Soviet Union such a horrible, horrible name.
Next, rapprochement was an international relations term that described a cordial establishment of relations between two entities. Oh, how friendly. Leave it to the French to think of something like that.
Yeah, French are all about diplomacy. No war for them. At least not unless the U.S. is there.
Yeah,
we got them. Alright.
Nice.
Yep. Okay. Next, rapprochement will never occur between the Rather Jennings news team and the Koppel-Stephanopoulos news team.
Excellent example. Okay, those are the terms. Now on to some more events that we left out.
Shut up! I already feel bad about myself.
Well, good. I'm just come on, read.
All right. In 1979, the U.S. and the Communist People's Republic of China established formal diplomatic relations.
Chinese leader Deng Xiaoping later visited the U.S. and the country's constructed embassies in the other countries. God, Kabul, jeez.
Next, we will discuss Operation Ryan and SDI, or the Strategic Defense Initiative, also codenamed Star Wars, in parallel.
Begun in 1981, Operation Ryan was a Soviet analytical method to predict a U.S. surprise attack on the Soviet Union.
In 1983, President Ronald Reagan announced SDI, a huge missile defense system with ground and space-based lasers to protect the U.S. from nuclear ballistic missiles.
Okay, to demonstrate this, this is the Earth, right here. Put your head right here. No, put your head right here.
Head up.
This is Earth. This
because my head's so big.
Exactly. This is the U.S. Now, the Soviet Union launches a nuclear missile. It goes out into space. And we got space-based lasers out here, and they shoot it down and we are unharmed. Now, the announcement of SDI, it scared the Soviet Union, more than a little, because they believed that if the U.S. could develop this system successfully, the U.S. could launch a first strike against the Soviet Union, bam, and SDI would make any nuclear response to the Soviet Union basically splash in the water.
A brilliant demonstration there.
Thank you.
As a result, the Soviet Union expanded Operation Ryan to attempt to more accurately predict a first strike. Operation Ryan was used during the nuclear scare of Operation Able Archer.
Interesting.
Next, the Reagan Doctrine.
The Reagan Doctrine, begun in the mid-'80s, became the basis of U.S. foreign policy until the fall of the Soviet Union in 1991.
Under the Reagan Doctrine, the U.S. covertly provided aid to anti-communist resistance movements in order to end Soviet influence in Africa, Asia, and Latin America.
In doing this, the U.S. was able to promote democracy in the regions after the communist regimes were removed.
Which leads us right into the Iran-Contra affair.
The Iran-Contra affair is widely considered to be the biggest political scandal of the 80s and one of the biggest in the history of all U.S. presidents.
Basically, the U.S. sold arms to Iran, who at the time was a major enemy of the U.S., and used the money to fund the Contras, an anti-communist guerrilla group in Nicaragua.
The funding of the Contras goes along with the Reagan Doctrine in that the Contras were anti-communist and we wanted to help them take over the regime. But the fact that the money given to them was by arms sales to Iran is the true scandal.
In November 1986, President Reagan went on national television to deny that the arms were ever sold. But a week later, he returned to admit that, we got him, the arms were indeed sold to Iran.
This was especially scandalous because of its coincidence with the Iran hostage crisis.
Crazy stuff.
Indeed.
Next we have Grenada.
Grenada is a Caribbean island.
And on. If there's more.
In Cold War terms, it gained its independence from the United Kingdom in 1974. The government became increasingly dictatorial, and in 1979, Maurice Bishop of the leftist New Jewel movement initiated a coup.
Coup's a funny word.
That is.
Another French silliness.
Anyway.
The new government did not hold elections and instituted a Marxist-Leninist socialist government. That's a lot of ists.
Well, you can never have too many.
I guess. This, along with their support of communist Cuba, did not sit well with the U.S. and other nearby free nations.
However, Bishop was assassinated in October of 1983 in another coup, which brought a communist government into power. He was perceived as a threat to the U.S., and 6 days after the communist government was instated, U.S. forces invaded the island. It showed that the U.S. was still willing to enforce the Truman Doctrine of containment, even after the loss of Vietnam.
You know, I lived on an island once.
Focus!
Sorry.
Next we have Mujahideen.
Mujahideen was a militant political party that wanted to overthrow the government in the Islamic Republic of Iran and replace it with its own leadership.
That's fun to say, isn't it? Mujahideen.
It really is.
Anyway, Mujahideen played a large role in the 1979 Islamic Revolution and then became a powerful opposition group to the government. Iran's government did its best to suppress the group, but Mujahideen was successful in bombing the Iranian premier's office in June of 1981, killing about 70 high-ranking government officials.
Dang, I bet they weren't too happy.
Good point.
Next we have the SALT II Treaty. This was the second round of talk from 1972 to 1979 between the U.S. and the USSR, in which the countries sought to stop the manufacture of strategic nuclear weapons.
The agreement to limit strategic launchers was reached in Vienna on June 18, 1979 by Leonid Brezhnev of the Soviet Union and Jimmy Carter of the United States.
Brezhnev was my maiden name.
Whoa.
Finally, in 1975, the Helsinki Accords, or Final Act, were signed.
The document was based on the following points. 1.
Cut a hole in a box.
No. 1. Sovereign equality, respect for the rights inherent in sovereignty. 2. Refraining from the threat or use of force. No. 3. Inviolability of frontiers. 4. Territorial integrity of states. Just states. 5. Peaceful settlement of disputes. I bet France put that in there. 6.
Non-intervention in internal affairs. 7. Respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms, including the freedom of thought, conscience, religion, or belief. 8. Equal rights and self-determination of peoples. 9. Cooperation among states. And 10. Fulfillment in good faith of obligations under international law.
I'm pretty sure I was going to do all 10.
Well, deal with it. Tell us about the rest of it.
Anyway, the document was seen both as a significant step toward reducing Cold War tensions and as a major diplomatic boost for the Soviet Union at the time, due to its clauses on the inviolability of national borders, which we talked about, and respect for national and territorial integrity, which we also talked about, which were seen to consolidate the USSR's territorial gains in Eastern Europe following the Second World War.
Alright, so are we done?
Yeah, actually we are. We hope you enjoyed our special on the Cold War from 1975 to 1985.
I know I did.
I know you did too. This is Peter Jennings saying goodnight for the second time.
And this is Dan Rather saying, save a eucalyptus leaf and eat a koala.
You can say that on TV.
I just did. Try and catch me. Ah!
And they fixed that while we were fighting.
Ow. Oh.